A close call for one of the heroes of Iwo Jima. He almost died in the war. Now he's facing a challenge here at home in Colorado. Family members say 93-year-old John Keith Wells nearly died last week after suffering what they believe was a stroke. Denver 7 reporter Lance Hernandez talked to his family about his legacy.
Do you remember that, Keith?
Dad? Connie Schultz says her father, John Keith Wells, barely survived his latest brush with death, but is now getting stronger.
But he's a Marine, and you know Marines, they're fighters.
Wells' first brush occurred 70 years ago on Iwo Jima. He was injured while leading his platoon up Mount Suribachi. His men planted the first American flag on that island. Hours later, a second group planted a much larger flag, the one memorialized in this famous photograph.
So the first flag raising that went up was the most important to the men on the island.
Son-in-law Herman Schultz says Wells' men actually stopped fighting and cheered as the first flag went up. They kept fighting during the second flag raising. That first group wasn't recognized until 65 years later when President Bush invited them to the White House. Wells was recognized by the Japanese. He and his wife visited the home of the Japanese general who served on Iwo. The general's widow invited them to see the shrine she'd set up in his room.
It meant all the world to my mom and dad to make that major trip alone and be honored by them, his enemy. And he would never forget it, and it is in the book.
Wells was awarded the Navy Cross and a Purple Heart. He kept in touch with the men he led, attending many reunions. The 50th anniversary was special.
When he came into that building, they saw him and they started singing the Marine hymn.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli.
And I want you to know that will always be with me when they had that much respect for him.
Lance Hernandez, Denver 7.
Wells authored a book on Iwo Jima. It includes the phrase, "Give me 50 Marines not afraid to die," in the cover. Connie Schultz says that summed up her father's attitude about his duty. A veteran's